Could I ask that I'm not recorded? My section cannot record, please.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Thank
just so you know, I still cannot download it. I've been clicking for a million times and still not responding.
I tested it's working on my side, so
And
The
it's not working.
I can give you the link as well. All right.
Sure. I just send it to my email so that I can start. Is that okay?
Yeah, just carry on with the meeting and then we will do that.
Yep. Mhm. Right. Awesome. Well, good evening, fellow Toastmasters. Yep. And my name is Adrian Lee, and I am from Honeymoon City Toastmasters. And welcome to our irregular meeting for our Speak-a-Thon event. First of all, I don't really know if there's an introduction, but I would like to introduce Marianna Burka so that we can start off the meeting, as I'm still waiting for the agenda to see the agenda to my email. But so just introduce to Marianna, is that correct?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Adrian, and welcome everyone. It's wonderful that we are together and we try the first I ever organizing Speak-a-Thon. And thank you very much for joining us. Well, we are still waiting one of our speakers. So the order is skewed and we don't have enough evaluators. Do we have a guest? I asking the guest if anyone willing to evaluate today. Please let me know. So we have Ivan, Peter, Roger. Would you like to, Diane? Are you ready to evaluate or you just like to enjoy the Judy? No, Judy, no?
Marianna, it's Brent. If you need me to, I can.
All right, because
Yeah.
Bud is missing. He was supposed to evaluate Faith. So if you would take Faith evaluation, that would be wonderful.
I would just, is she, what's the speaker order? And I apologize. It's
And
just,
I will give you the speaking order in a second. It's in the agenda, which would start with Bud.
yeah, the reason I say that, Marianna, is I'm currently on mobile, so I just wouldn't be able to evaluate the first or maybe even the second speaker. So.
No, Faith is the last one on the row, so you can evaluate.
Oh, then perfect. Then that's fine. Then yes, I can definitely do that.
Bud is here. He was supposed to be the first one. We will shift him to the end. So the first speaker will be tonight Brahm. After that, myself, and Juvellys, Sherri, Faith, and we go to back Bud. And the evaluators, so Faith will have Brent. I thought Sherri would evaluate Brahm, if you are right. Thank you.
Yes, I could do that.
And
Can you,
Juvellys evaluate me, and I will evaluate her, and Brahm would evaluate Sherri. And when Bud, if he comes, Faith would evaluate Bud.
may I ask the title and the speech, because I don't have access. I couldn't open it either. Like
For Brahm.
Diane I couldn't open it, so I don't know what the project is or.
Well, since Brahm is here, he can give you
Thank
that
you.
information right directly.
Thank you.
I'll send it to you in the chat.
Thank you.
And if I'm correct, all the speeches for the timer, 5 to 7 minutes, right? Anybody has different timing?
4 to 6 for my icebreaker.
Yes, you have an icebreaker. And one more question, Adrian, our Toastmaster Sergeant at Arms today. Do you have all the introductions except mine?
Nope, I only got. I hope I can pronounce it correctly. Only Juvellys introduction. That's the only one I have.
I sent Faith's and Sherri's an email. Well, we have a irregular meeting. So is it possible for speakers to introduce themselves before the speech? Can we do that?
Yes, that's a good idea.
So in that case, Adrian, what we need from you is just a speaking order. Do you have the speaking order now?
Yes, I do.
It's Brahm, myself, Juvellys, Sherri, Faith, and Bud if he will attend.
Yeah, if Bud shows up, then yes.
Yes.
Otherwise, the order is the same.
Yes, and our
Okay.
timer tonight is Brenda Bellinger. Can we see her? And if she can show the lights to us. Brenda? I think we are losing Brenda.
You can carry on until she comes back.
Well, we would need her unless Adrian can time the first speaker.
Definitely not a problem.
Oh,
Brenda's
hey,
back.
Brenda is back. So please show us your lights so we know what we're looking for. All right. So with that, I will give the word to Adrian, and please call your first speaker tonight. Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for coming and being patient with us. It's technology. We try our best.
All right. Thank you so much, Marianna. Next, I would like to invite our first speaker tonight, Brahm Memone.
Thank you. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and most welcome guests. Let me tell you a little bit about my evolution as to how come I'm speaking here right now to you all. Would you like to know? How did I arrive at this very moment, looking into this camera and speaking to you, 14 people on the screen? Wow. Well, let me tell you, evolution. I just didn't arrive here by accident. I just didn't arrive here. Perhaps I did, maybe not. Perhaps some of it was premeditated and some of it was accident. And let me tell you how some of it might have been an accident and some of it is real for sure. So evolution, ladies and gentlemen, here's my evolution. Let's go back 600 years ago to the Indian subcontinent, a place called Sindh. Well, let's look at a closer look. Sindh, 600 years ago. That's where my ancestors actually lived, 600 years ago. And who knows where they lived a few thousand years ago, but that doesn't matter for this speech. What happened is 600 years ago, they moved from a place called Sindh to a place called Mandvi through the desert. They must have taken some camels, obviously, because they traveled through the desert. And they went to a place called Mandvi where they stayed for 400 years. That's right, 400 years they sat there. God knows what they were doing. Perhaps they were farmers, perhaps they were builders, architects, thieves, vagabonds, pirates. I have no idea. Maybe they were great, maybe they were small. Who knows? That wasn't by design, by the way, I think. And then 200 years ago, what happened is they left this place and went to a place called Mombasa in Kenya. 200 years ago, we landed in this place. It was Africa, you know, the indigenous people lived there. It was pretty much unexplored by anyone really from outsiders. Very few people had ever explored the interior. The coastline had been explored by the Portuguese and the Arabs and so on. And so there we are. My ancestors went in this little boat. Would you believe it? It wasn't an ocean liner. It was a one-sail boat called the Dhow, D-H-O-W, Dhow. And that's what they sailed in. And they probably threw somebody overboard if they died along the way, right? Now, these were expert seamen, by the way. They knew how to sail the Indian Ocean. Vasco da Gama in in the year 1493, I believe, when he was trying to find the spice route, he got the help of these people who sailed the dhows to navigate the Indian Ocean for him. They were experts at sailing. So anyways, they landed on the coast of Africa, right over there. And then what did they do? They were not satisfied, so they went inland, traveled all over the place. And of course, many different places. But why I'm showing you this little place here, Mwanza, is my mother was born here. No, of course, not 200 years ago, but quite a long time ago, more than 90 years back. And my dad was, of course, born right there, Mombasa, Kenya. So, you know, I'm an African. Some of my relatives and my second cousins are Black. If you look at my brother, he's very dark in color. If you look at me, I'm very light in color. My grandfather had very light skin and blue eyes. And so I don't know how that happened. Nobody can explain. Nobody will talk. I don't know. So anyways, this is one of the towns that I grew up in. That is the part of my evolution of how I came to be who I am. This is how I grew up. This is what it was. This was the scene I saw every day, except of course, this is our modern machinery. We had, in the days that I grew up in small little towns, they hardly had any of these things that you see here. This is current. And then of course, came to Canada, and afterwards won all these trophies and so on. So what? And then here I am now, ladies and gentlemen, in Canada. So my ancestors came from India to Kenya, all over East Africa. Then I grew up in Kenya. Then I went to England to study. And then I came to Canada. And then a few years later, I became a Toastmaster. I've been a Toastmaster for 26 years in Canada. I've lived around the greater Toronto area, Mississauga, Toronto, Barrie, Hamilton. And every time I moved, I joined a new Toastmasters club. And so I've been a member of about 10, 11 different clubs over the years. And so, ladies and gentlemen, here I am. This is my evolution. And every time I sort of am in Toastmasters, I tell myself, what is the next big thing that I can do? If I am not doing the next big thing, then I make an exit plan, because either you grow or you get out of the way and get out. So that is my philosophy in my life. Grow or get out. So the game has to get bigger all the time, and you have to reinvent and recreate yourself. For me, that's what I do. Hence, you know, even though my ancestors settled in Kenya and they were there they've been there for 200 years, I left about around 170 when they had been there for about 170 years, and left and went to England and then came here. And this is where I've been in Canada for that long, and I keep reinventing myself every year. And that is my evolution, is because this is only a 4 to 6 minute speech. We'll tell you briefly about the evolution that happened in Canada, where, you know, sometimes life delivers some crisis. Have any of you ever been through an existential crisis? I have been. You know, I've had the degrees from some of the most prestigious schools, and yet I had an existential crisis. And that set me forth on a different trajectory of evolution, which became a deliberate practice to become more of who I am, rather than the accidental Brahm. This is more of a deliberate Brahm. This is not an accidental Brahm, because I really worked hard on myself. And so here I am, and to reinvent myself, I reinvented in Toastmasters a very, very big project called the Global Leadership Impact Summit, which will have 1,000 people. And some of you on the screen here will be in that meeting on July the 23rd, 1,000 Toastmasters. And I know Sherri will be there. I know Marianna will be there. Brent will be there, and a lot of you will be there in this meeting, July the 23rd. So keep reinventing yourself, grow bigger, or get out of the game and do something else. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Brahm. Oh, and I see Bud has joined the room, so maybe he will speak next, or if he wants to give him some time. And I apologize for not giving the proper introduction. So just a recap for Brahm's title is called Evolution, and he's completing the icebreaker from the innovative planning. Let's see if I can get Bud here. Bud, are you here? but you are unmuted. Hi, bud.
Am I speaking right now?
Yes, we have already finished our first speaker.
All
As
right.
you are the first speaker, so we can, if you want to choose, you can speak now if you want.
I apologize for being a little unprepared. As I mentioned to Marianna, I tested positive for COVID a couple of days ago, and I've been kind of distracted by that situation. Can you move me to later in the order?
Sure, no problem. I hope you're getting better. And is it okay for me to move you towards the last speaker? Is that okay?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Sure. Okay, fantastic. All right. No worries. And moving on, I would like to introduce our second speaker, Marianna Burka. She is completing the Introduction to Toastmasters Mentoring from the Presentation Mastery Project. Let me introduce to you Marianna Burka, Mentoring, Marianna Burka.
4 years ago, I was told if I want to be a good speaker, being able to present in front of people without shaking, I should become a Toastmaster. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, most welcome guest. So I came, and it was nothing but I imagined. It was way more than I expected, way more complex. As I was sitting at my first meeting as a guest, I got one surprise after another. The agenda, detailed by the minute. Oh my. And the members, they were supporting each other. And all that clapping, lots of clapping. And then came a big surprise. They called the evaluator. Oh, what? I will have to comment on other people's speech. I was mortified. Not that they called me as a guest to evaluate, but I was thinking of the future because I knew I wanted to be a part of that group. I wanted to be a Toastmaster. I remember my icebreaker. I was shaking, clutching the laughter, tried to remember about my speech without looking at my printed paper. And look at me now. I am talking and smiling and moving around. My hands are moving and I'm looking at you. Right in the eye. And no shaking. I started my Toastmaster journey eagerly. I picked a path on the website and I saw I can ask for mentor. Oh, I did. My first mentor was Brenda Ballinger. Coincidentally, she is here with us today. And she was patient and calm, very helpful, visited me in my home. We became friends. Very positive experience. Then I reached level 2 project where I had to talk about my life experience, being mentored. Oh, what now? Really? I just realized at age 55 that I never had a mentor before in my life until I joined Toastmasters. Not just that, I never needed a mentor. I never wanted one. And to be honest, nobody ever wanted to mentor me. It's like there was a big sign on my forehead, unmentorable. As I was searching in my memory, I realized I never had a mentor because I never needed one. I never wanted one. All my life, I always knew what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it, when I wanted to do it, who I wanted to do it, where I wanted to do it. And I was wrong. Now I am different. Now I know that asking for help, accepting help, it's not a weakness, it's a strength. That being told that I am wrong, sometimes, it's not a problem. And accepting advice, it's helpful. It takes me forward on my journey faster. I can learn from others. And because I'm being open to suggestion, I changed my perception and I find my place in a Toastmaster community to enhance my personal life and my Toastmaster friends. Brenda, with her agreeable personality, helped me to go where I wanted to go. And now I have a new mentor, Brahm Memone. Coincidentally, he is here tonight as well. Brahm is different than Brenda. He is constantly challenging me. First time we connected, he explained it to me that he has high expectations. And he showed it to me, high expectations. And he also explained it to me. He is not willing to come down to my level. And he showed it to me, my level. My first challenge he gave me is to fill the agenda. We regularly had available roles right before the meeting. So I got to work. I messaged people, I called them, I connected with them, and I filled the agenda. The second week, I filled all the roles with 4 speakers. In Tuesday, did I mention our meetings are Saturday? So I was happy, proud of myself. So I sent a message to my mentor. Look, and I sent a picture of the agenda. And he reacted to me within a few seconds. The message said, Marianna, we should have 5 speakers. Well, 4 years ago, I would have got upset about something like this. Now, I just went and find the 5th speaker for our meeting. At the beginning of my Toastmaster journey, I needed gentle, careful direction. Thank you, Brenda. And now I embrace all the challenges I have to face. Thank you, Brahm. Because of the 2 of you, now, if anyone offers mentoring, I say, yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marianna. Now, I would like to invite our 3rd speaker of the night, and I hope I pronounced your name correctly, Juvellys, George. And since I have received her introduction, I would read her introduction directly. First of all, Juvellys have been in Toastmasters a little over a year now. She is currently the president of Sun One Toastmasters, VPM of Your Best You Toastmasters. She loves to travel, a holistic coach, and working to become a transformational coach. She is also a servant leader who loves to inspire and motivate the team to reach their full potential. Now, tonight, she will be completing writing a speech with purpose from the presentation mastery. Please help me welcome Juvellys George with no title, Juvellys George. Thank you.
I'm sorry, before we start, I want to clarify that I will be working on level 5 project, and the name is Go Big or Go Home. That it's just that the change was not done in the agenda. Okay, so I'm going to start now for the timer. Okay, who here likes to travel? Nice. Have you already done the trip of your dreams? No? Oh, well, I'm sorry, but I did mine. I went to Alaska. Have you ever been to Alaska? Let me tell you something. Alaska is amazing. The scenery, even when you step out of the plane, the smell from the pines, I mean, that experience is absolutely unforgettable. It's like being on a Hallmark movie. You cannot repeat that experience when you step out of the plane and you start smelling the pine. It's amazing. Well, Juvellys, what does it has to do with this project? Well, for this project, I had to talk to you about a big event that I have to plan, organize, lead, and execute. So I decided to share with you my experience in Alaska because it has been so far the biggest project that I ever had to plan. When we decided it was time to scratch off from that trip from our bucket list, it took months and months of preparation. I thought that since I don't know if I was ever going to come back to Alaska, I wanted to experience everything that Alaska had to offer. I was not even thinking about the budget. I wanted to do everything. And let me tell you something, we did. We fulfilled that dream. So I started doing the research of those things that I must do in Alaska, those things I could do because I am not fit enough to do some of the activities that I wanted. So we did the ice fields, we did the icebergs, helicopter tour, dog sled, deadliest catch tour. You know that tour that they go fishing? We did that. Whale watching, Denali. We went river rafting. We did gold panning. We went to the North Pole to talk to Santa. We went to an Indian reservation. We went to the Ice Museum. We did the 40 below zero experience. I mean, so you have an idea what we did. We started our journey at the North Pole and we ended in Seattle. It was a long, long trip. So I had to find which town was the best for each activity, how long would it take us to complete each activity, and how we were going from point 1 to point B. We needed to rent cars. We needed to take train trips, airplanes, helicopter, cruise. I mean, the logistics was incredible. Everything had to be perfectly organized because our schedule was pretty tight. Our day normally started around 7 a.m. and ended around midnight. But as you know, in Alaska, it's daylight until, 24/7, basically. So at 3 a.m., it was pretty bright. So we were able to fit in our day as much as our body could take. But what it takes to plan a big event like this? The first thing, regardless what you're planning, is a vacation, is an event, you have to consider what is your goal. In our case, the goal was to see as much as we could. We were not thinking about the budget. We just wanted to fulfill our dream. Then I will say that you have to consider your attitude because Murphy's Law will follow you. And you must keep your calm every step of the way because this type of events can be overwhelming because there are so many details that you have to consider. It was also an opportunity for me to practice my leadership because I had to recognize things that I could delegate. After all, you cannot achieve greatness by yourself. Which takes me to my next tip for when you're planning a big event is that you need to have a team that shares your vision. You must clearly define what is the role that they are going to take in that event, and you need to clarify your expectations. I recommend that you always have a plan B, just in case something gets complicated. For example, my daughter took too long to book an excursion that we wanted in the glacier to go dog sledding. They were sold out for the excursion that we wanted. But you know me, I will not let that come into my way. So thank God when we arrived there, I asked if there was any last minute cancellation, and they said, yes, we have a cancellation. So they were very happy to upgrade our tour on the spot. You need to be really organized in terms of logistics, finance, and deadlines. In this case, the trip was going to be around 3 weeks. So we have a detailed schedule, but I didn't plan for how expensive the meals were going to be. So we ended up really tight in the budget, and we need to activate the plan B, which was an extra credit card that I took with me just in case I had problems. So be prepared for the unexpected events. Try to anticipate any potential risk that could happen, and have a plan to mitigate it. To keep the story short, if you're planning a big event, even if it is the vacation of your dreams or is another type of event, remember, you go big or you go home. Mr. Toastmasters.
Thank you so much. Next, I would like to invite our fourth speaker, Bud Brown. Are you okay to speak?
Sorry, had to unmute. Yes, I'm all set.
Okay, all right, fantastic. Oh, Bud is going to complete the understanding your communication style from the motivational strategies path. So since he does not have a title, I would just simply introduce Bud Brown, no title, Bud Brown, no title, Bud Brown. And the floor is yours.
Thank you. I did actually send you my title in the chat, but obviously that didn't get through in time. My title is Hippocrates Was Right. Fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests. I was reading through the Toastmasters project, Understanding Your Communication Style, and it suddenly dawned on me that these 4 communication styles that Toastmasters was describing for us were in fact almost a one-for-one match with the styles of the personality that Hippocrates envisioned back in his time 300 years before the Common Era. And it just blew me away. I would like you to imagine in your mind a blank piece of paper, draw a line in your mind across the top, or from the top of that piece of paper right to the bottom, and then draw another line right in the middle of the piece of paper horizontally. And at the top, I want you to write the word direct. And at the bottom of that line, write the word indirect. And then at the left-hand side on that horizontal line, I want you to write the word open. And on the other side, write the 2 words self-contained. These are the ways that Hippocrates imagined our personalities being developed. People who are direct and open, he described them as sanguines, which you might think of, if you wanted to put it in another way, as hot-blooded. And the people who were direct, but on the other side self-contained, he described them as they were control motivated. So they were basically they were choleric, as he described them. And these were talking about levels of fluid within the body. The people who were self-contained and indirect were phlegmatic, and the people who were open and indirect, they were the people that were melancholy. And these described, as I said, various what Hippocrates viewed as fluid levels, the amount of blood that you had, the amount of phlegm that you had, pardon the use of a term like that, the amount of black bile and the amount of yellow bile. And that determined what you were going to be like. Well, Toastmasters came up with 4 categories that they referred to as initiating, supportive, direct, and analytical. And I took a test, and it seems that they had described me as initiating, which is the category that Hippocrates called sanguine. Now, the best way to describe a sanguine personality is somebody who, well, let's see. This is a type of person, if you met them at a party within the first 5 minutes of meeting them, you would know their life history. You put on the other end of the spectrum the self-contained indirect person, which is the melancholy that I was talking about. This is a person you would know for 20 years before you found out that they had a wife before you knew them, that they had gotten divorced. They never mentioned it. These are the types of personality extremes that you find in these different types. Now, I have taught I've taught workshops in how these 4 personality types work. And it's kind of interesting because the indirect, let me try that again. The direct but self-contained person is called the choleric in the Hippocrates type of model. But in the Toastmasters model, this is a person you would call the direct personality. And this is a person who really expects you to just do what they say. Now, when I was teaching this one time at a corporate training company that I worked for, the sales manager got up after I had described all 4 personality types, and he said, well, this is great. I love this system of using personality types, because now I realize that if I tell all of you that I'm a direct personality, that you'll all be able to deal with me properly. This was not what we were going for. The whole idea of understanding your communication style or your personality type is the idea that you can recognize other people's personality styles and their personality type. And you can deal with them in a way that they expect to be dealt with. So if you're dealing with somebody who is direct and self-contained, and you recognize that that's how they want to be dealt with, then you can start communicating with them in their style. And that's what I love doing. This guy, his name was Rod. Rod took it the other way around. It was that everybody else should adapt to him, which is so typical of a direct personality that I had to laugh out loud when he said that. It is said that if a sanguine or initiating personality like myself had a car, it would be a car with all the gadgets, but I wouldn't know how to run any of them. But it is said that a person with a direct personality like Rod had a car, it would be a Sherman tank. You get the idea, I hope. This is the basic concept of the communication style. When you come to level 2 in pathways and you find yourself reading about the communication style, don't worry as much about what style you are. It's good to know. Worry instead about the communication style of the people that you're talking to. Because if you can understand their communication style, you're going to be able to communicate with them in a way they will listen to. Communication styles are a fabulous way to improve your communication. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Bud. Next, for our fifth speaker, I'd like to introduce to you Sherri.
How many of you guys have felt stressed recently? Yeah, I see a few. Dissertation make you stressed. I would like to present a way to help you know what areas you can to worry and stress about and what areas you can just let go and let. So as I had said in the introduction, you'll need a piece of paper and a pen, one that you can, and I'd like you to take, and we're going to draw down and divide your paper into 3 horizontal columns. And in the one you're going to put stuff you have control over. In the middle, you have influence. And then the stuff you have no control over. So we're going to take things in our life, and I want you to think about, what do you really have control over in your current situation? And we're going to put those in the control section. And then we'll go through some things you have influence over, but you can't completely control. And then what you don't have any control over at all. So this, your paper should look like it's got control, influence, and no control. So what are some things you have control over? I'm going to put, to start us out, more actions, or my actions. I can control my boundaries. So to a extent, who's involved in my life? Go ahead and shout out. If you've got some, you can shout them out. This is an interactive workshop.
Eating and exercise.
Eating, what I eat, what I put in my body, what I do, exercise. That's kind of, do we have any other ones? Anything else?
How I react to what people do.
I'm going to say we can train how we react, because in a fight, flight, freeze response, which is when your stress is the physical response of that reaction, you're not thinking in that point, but you can train yourself to how you react. So you can train your reaction. This is a good list of things we can control, and we'll remember these as we go on. Notice other people's actions are not in this list. What are some things we have influence over? I have influence over maybe doctors' appointments, like, can we have a doctor's appointment? And things we can influence. We can influence the directions of areas. Anyone else have any other ones?
We can influence the people we talk to.
We can influence others with our words. Great. might be able to influence where an organization is going. Okay, so we've got a decent list. Is there anything else before we move on to what we can't control? That's the most important section we're gonna go over. We control and no control. Okay, so there's some things that we have no control over, and we want to be able to recognize these so that we can release them. What are some things you have no control over?
The weather.
What'd you say?
The weather.
The weather. We have no control over the weather, and that could affect us in our health. What about we have no control over others' actions? We can control ours, but not others. How others react. What are some other things we can't control? Government policies. So for example, so we have, you can do this for a longer list. You have your list of what you can control, you have influence over, you can't control. And we need to release, because since we have no control over, it's not value for us to take our stress and our anxiety and our energy on them. So we're going to throw them out, like release them. And so we will rip this section off. So I want you to split and tear off your other stuff that you have no control over. And we need to get rid of this. You can rip it up. You can throw it through it, just throw it in the trash. Throw in the trash. You can throw it in the shredder. You can take and find a safe place and burn it. You can. One of the things in whatever action I do is I personally give it over in prayer to God, but take and just rip it up. And so now it's not in your control. And now you just have left the things you have control over and you have your influence on. And you should focus on the things you have control over and take the it will release your stress if you take the actions to control the things you can control and throw away the things that you can't control. So I encourage you to do this action on activity on a regular basis whenever you feel stress or anxiety, and to take this, or you're going to be in an area so you can reduce the number of things that you have stress and anxiety over. Thank you, Toastmaster, for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Faith. Moving on, I would like to invite you to vote for the best speaker. So in terms of the names, so please send the best speaker you think to me. And we have 1 minute. All right. So while we are still voting, I would like to invite our timer, Brenda Ballinger, to give the times for the speeches. The floor is yours. Brenda, you're
Yeah, I was just trying to find my unmute. Thank you. Brahm spoke for 6 minutes and 59 seconds. Marianna spoke for 6 minutes and 57 seconds. Juvellys spoke for 6 minutes and 29 seconds. Bud spoke for 7 minutes and 16 seconds. Dr. Sherri spoke for 7 minutes and 29 seconds, and Faith spoke for 8 minutes and 1 second.
Thank you so much, Brenda. Thank you. Thank you. Next, we will have a quick 5-minute break. So since on my clock it's 8:02, I would like to invite all of you back at 8:07. Yep, thank you.
And since it's the break, I'm going to take the opportunity to apologize abjectly to the whole group for showing up late and ill prepared. It's been a stressful couple of days.
How are you doing? We forgive you. I mean, it's
Well, from a symptoms point of view, I'm doing great. I've a little bit of a sniffle, a productive cough, and occasionally I go into a fit of sneezes. Worst symptom is that the little thing in the antigen test that I took said that I have COVID. So that means my wife, who is very, very concerned about COVID, has asked me to stay in my room.
Hey, what's wrong with that?
Well, I suppose nothing except that,
Room service, right?
it kind of puts the weight of everything that's going on in our house on her, which is, to me, it's stressful.
Oh, I bet you shared. You make up for it.
Well, eventually I will, yes, but
I came late too, obviously, and I regret. I'm glad I made it, but I just kind of got into Dr. Sherri's speech, and oh my God, I was totally encompassed by that. Gee, from what I heard, So I'm sorry, I missed a bunch of dandy speeches. Oh. Hey, Bud, how do you think you caught COVID?
oh, I'm pretty certain I know how I caught it. I was at a convention of my fellow Lutherans in Edmonton the weekend before last, and nobody there was wearing masks. Nobody was taking any precautions whatsoever. To look around the room, you would think COVID had been years before, and that there was no longer any danger.
Were you wearing a mask?
Nope. No, I'm
not criticizing. I'm just asking.
I was just as guilty as anyone else. So I caught it. I know one of the pastors that was there that I know personally caught it, and another pastor that I don't know personally, but my own pastor does, and both of them caught it. And apparently there are 2 other people that my pastor knows that caught it, although I didn't recognize their names in his prayers.
So it just shows that COVID is still prevalent.
Yes, but well, the but is this. Nobody I know who's caught COVID in the last 2 months has had anything more than mild symptoms.
Okay.
So when COVID first started, if you got COVID, there was a very good chance you were going to wind up in ICU. You were going to wind up in serious trouble, and you might die. And people say, well, people died from the flu before that. And it's true that, for years and years, we've recognized that people who are physically compromised, if they get the flu, could well die, especially if it's a respiratory version of the flu.
And then there's long COVID, so that's a fact.
Yeah. But the
I still wear one of those N95 masks that have the double elastics. I look like partial Darth Vader with the top off.
Yeah, I've got one of those. I've got one of those.
I go to grocery stores. I wear them. because my son is compromised, right? He
Well,
has
I,
Down syndrome. So
and I
can't
wear them at
get there.
grocery stores, but for some reason I elected not to wear it at the convention. So, eh,
But
Eh.
my father died of COVID when he was in a nursing home, and he died in 2020. Yeah. So it
Oh my
happens.
God.
It's
Jeez.
yeah.
it really
Oh.
does hit you
And
close
you
up and personal.
probably could not say, you probably could not be there,
No,
right?
I couldn't be there. The only way I could see him was virtually.
Yeah.
They had to hire extra nurses so that we could have a virtual visit, and then he was supposed to go in hospice back to the nursing home, but it ended up that they called me an hour later and he did pass, and it was tough. So both of my parents passed a week apart,
Yeah.
and they were
Oh, sorry to hear
Oh,
that.
that's so sad.
they were cremated, and I have them in my closet right now.
Adrian is
Okay,
gesturing.
excuse, yeah,
Yeah.
excuse me. Yes, thank you so much. Well, I hope you get better, bud. I'm listening to. Hope you get better soon. And thank you so much for everyone's concern for Bud as well. Thank you so much. Now, let's return back to our meeting. Although I don't really understand or don't know intro to TTM, who that is, but I'll just go straight into it.
Table
to the
topics.
Table Topics Master. There's Table Topics Master. Okay. I was wondering, okay. Well, here's our table topics for tonight. We'll be evaluating our wonderful speakers for tonight. First of all, I would like to invite Sherri, or Dr. Sherri Raftery, who is going to evaluate Brahm Memone's speech. And for the timer's reference, hold on. Just let me give a spotlight first. For timer's reference, the evaluation will be green light at 1 minute, the amber light or yellow light at 2 minutes, and the red light at 3 minutes. All good?
Yes, thank
And
you.
we're all ready?
Thank you, Mr.
The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, Gen Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters guests, and especially DTM Brahm. You certainly did give us a great icebreaker. You went through the evolution of how you got to where you're at. So I will use the ABC method: appreciate, be aware, and congratulations. And I'll start with, wow, your eye contact was great. I loved how you used the background with your pointer. That alone points for you. And you gave us probably about 75% of your speech was a history lesson and a geography lesson, learning how you and your family have migrated, which was, I love that actually. And then you went into, for about 25%, you chatted about, which was so quick, we saw in a split second all your awards, which I wanted to hear which colleges you went to. I wanted to hear how you earned those Toasty awards. I wanted to hear more about your summit. I wanted you to give us a call to action and to attend. I know you pointed me out that I'm attending, yes, and maybe in the chat you can put the link so that you can get folks in here. I like the grow bigger. Not crazy about get out, because I don't want you to get out. We need you. We need you to keep evolutionizing. And I just wanted to also share that our first international female president, Helen Blanchard, said, if you get all you can get out of Toastmasters, you'll never get out of Toastmasters. So don't stop there, Brahm. There's so much more for you to be doing. And as I mentioned, I would have liked to have had the call to action and hearing more about you. I think you could give a summit alone on how to use that PowerPoint that you did. And I think also Toastmaster Marianna also used that same structure. So perhaps you will train me on how I can become a better speaker with my backgrounds, and especially using the summit, which is awesome. And I enjoyed learning about your family. I love that you're able to explain that you're a lighter African, that happens. That's good for us to also be aware of. And I love that you've got 1,000 Toastmasters coming to your summit. I thought you did a really good job. Like I said, I think that more about you. I loved hearing more about your family, but I would have loved to hear more about you and how you got here. And you are an amazing leader. And I appreciated everything you shared with us. And maybe be more aware of that red card so that you can share more about you. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator, Tabletop Mr. Master Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sherri. Next, I would like to invite our second evaluator, Juvellys, who is going to evaluate Marianna's speech. So where are you?
Here I
Yeah,
am.
there you are. There you are. And the floor is yours.
Marianna presented today her level 2 project for mentoring. And I believe that mentoring is one of the most important yet underrated benefits that our membership have to offer. The purpose of her speech was to share some aspect of her experience with the mentor program. And based on the story that she shared with us, I can say that was accomplished. Marianna, I felt connected with you because you highlighted the experience you have when you started and the current experience that you are having with Brahm as a mentor. I like that you did this speech standing up, that you had no filler words, and that you looked really confident and your gestures were right on point. I also noted that you were looking at the camera, and I look at the audience to make sure you were connecting with them. And I am under the impression that they did connect with you. I do not remember that you encouraged the members to take advantage of the mentoring program, and I think that would have been a great opportunity to do so. You may want to work on showing your personality on your speeches. I would love to see that on your next speech. Therefore, I challenge you to speak from the heart. And when, for example, when you said that nobody wanted to mentor you, you could have changed your tone of voice to reflect how you describe you were feeling at that moment. Other than that, congratulations on the progress you said and I chose that you have achieved with this mentoring benefit. And I congratulate you for that, Mr. Toastmasters.
Thank you so much, Juvellys. Next, I want to invite Marianna, who's going to evaluate Juvellys' speech.
Thank you.
Let me find you first. Yes, there you are. And the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster G and Sergeant at Arms, everything tonight. Thank you for being here. And thank you, Juvellys, to give a speech and give us an outlook, what we have to be aware if we are organizing an event like a family trip, because it is worthy to listen and be careful. It has all the same aspect like organizing a Toastmaster event. When the family goes, we have to be careful and we have to be ready for everything. I like it, you connected to us right away. You had a question for us. And of course, we all love to travel. And you went to a beautiful place, which I still have to go. And now I know a couple of pointers you gave us. And you are right that you have to be a leader when you're organizing your family trip. You looked at the camera, you explained your program, why you did what you did, and especially that you need a plan B. We always need a plan B, including an extra credit card. Yeah. And there is one thing I would suggest, maybe next time, actually two things. That standing up, so you show yourself and you can use your hand more, you can move around. And some pictures, please. I never been in Alaska. I would love to see some pictures. But your speech was very informational, and I really enjoyed it. So looking forward to hear about your next trip. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Marianna. Although Marianna has texted me whether we want to do an all-around evaluation for Bud, Marianna, would you like to do the evaluation for Bud or want to do the all around?
Well, I'm sorry about that, but since you weren't at the beginning here, we didn't really assign you an evaluator. I took notes, so I can start it off, and I would like to ask the other speakers if they have any comment. But let's start it with me. And
Sounds great.
I learned a lot. And your take on the project, that it's not really important to know what kind of person you are. You have to know other people you have to communicate with. And that was what I took from your presentation. And I would have a suggestion, just like earlier, that it would be nicer if you would stand up and you could move around in front of the camera. But today I forgive you because I know that you don't feel that well. And if I can ask some other speakers to comment on your speech, Brahm, would you like to add your advice to Brahm, Bud?
Since I'll just wait for any other comments, but I'll give a quick comment for Bud. First of all, it's wonderful that you have been able to absorb the material from Toastmasters International, because recently I have done a similar speech with the exact same message, which is the call to action part. And I absolutely agree with how our communication style adjusts towards the people that we speak to. In terms of how to enhance the speech even more, one quick suggestion is to use your personal experience, because if you are able to explain to us, there must have been experiences that you have done yourself, so that we can understand even more how we can utilize our communication style or adjust our communication style so that we can properly communicate with how others want to be communicated with. That being said, if you can make the speech a little bit more personalized, I'm pretty sure that many people can feel the same way as you have felt while you're using the material. And that's just a quick suggestion that I have. If anyone else has a comment, please raise your hand and I'll try to pin you.
Yes, Brenda.
Just a very quick note. Maybe a visual would be nice to explain your drawing lines there and telling us to put out words here and there. I think if you had something like a whiteboard or a visual, that might add something to your speech. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Brenda. So let's say we go for one more. Okay, so seeing none, I would like to move on to the next evaluator. Next, I would like to invite Brahm to evaluate Sherri's speech. Brahm, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Dr. Sherri. Wow. I mean, this was a PhD dissertation. Who am I to even say anything about a PhD dissertation? But I will try my best. I did go to school, so maybe I might do some justice to it. Yeah, Tony, I know. I really learned about foster homes and the problems kids go through, and even when they get into foster homes, how the problems could carry on forever and ever and ever. And that's why you are here, to do something about it. And your research work perhaps might address some key issues of foster homes and make life even better. Now I understand why the other day at Smedley's chapter 1, you were telling me in the notes in the chat privately, let's open prison, clubs and prisons. Now I really understand what you meant, and wow, I mean, that must be so fulfilling, and I really got that. I got, I mean, how you began the speech. You began the speech with asking us the question, raising your hand, who's been in a foster home, and you kept your hand up, and that was like, oh wow, and then of course that gave you the right to sort of speak to us, because it's just experience that is speaking, and then the research behind it as well. So there was double, not only the experience but research, so double-ended. And so you have the authority, you have the right, and you are the expert to talk to this. I totally got it. I got, from K to 12, 15, 4, and 3, all those numbers, the schools, and that you changed, 15 times and 4 times, 3 times and 5 times. Oh my goodness, wow. And yet you are here and a PhD. Amazing, amazing. So there is hope. There is hope. That's what I got. Where you can improve, I know this is more of an academic presentation. So if you don't expect, like I'm going, high, low, and I don't expect that. But a little more vocal variety does help a little bit. And at times I did feel that you probably might have been reading a little bit, which is okay, it's academic, but read it in a way that feels as if you're not reading it. So that would help, I think. And also, of course, we know that Zoom backgrounds is such a crazy thing when you have a very light background and the light isn't fully on and you're not well lit. It causes a bit of a distortion in how we can see your expression in your face and your eyes. So we have to be mindful of what is in our background, how light it is as compared to the lighting on our face. That contrast has to be there. So and so besides those improvements that you could think of, I really loved your presentation. I can totally understand how you have passion for prisons and for foster homes. And I think you will do great in that summit that is coming up in a couple of days' time. All the best, Sherri, Dr. Sherri. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Brahm. I would like to invite our last evaluator, Brent Patterson, to evaluate Faith's speech. So before, let me see where you, yep, there you are. The floor is yours, Brent.
Hello, Toastmasters, welcome guests, and Faith, of course. Tonight, this was a wonderful example of an interactive speech from beginning to end. The speech started with a question that pretty much any audience can probably relate to, as any, have you experienced stress? But that is a good start to a presentation because it's very relatable to the audience. It's a question that everyone can relate to and sets a good tone for the rest of the speech. What I really liked about Faith's speech tonight was the interactiveness of the entire speech from beginning right through to end. There was a lot of audience participation. We were very engaged in the one-step process, really, of the exercise that Faith walked us through. It was simple in its execution, and the audience was engaged throughout all 3 steps of identifying the things that we can't control, that we can influence, and the things that we can't control. What I thought could have made it a little bit better in the interactive portions is there were a lot of long silences while waiting for audience responses. And sometimes when Faith was making her own suggestions to fill the opportunities, it was though maybe, Faith, you were making them up on the fly. And I could tell that because there were some filler words in there when you were trying to think of what you were going to write. I would have maybe suggested that you had those ideas ready to go so that there weren't the necessity for the long pauses and the long silences. The other thing that I would like to see in it presentation like this, where it's so interactive, is more of you in the presentation. I think this is a great example of a presentation where standing would be effective, maybe a flip chart instead of a simple piece of paper, where you could really use your body language and own the virtual stage and bring yourself into that interactive presentation. And even more so, the other opportunity that I think in that last illustration of shredding that piece of paper, what I missed was your vocal variety. I can shred those things I can't control. I can crumple them up into a ball and throw them away. A little bit more of you presenting yourself with that vocal variety to match the actions that you were illustrating. On a closing note, what I really liked most about it is how well you knew the subject, how well you were able to paraphrase some of the suggestions from the audience in an understandable way, appropriately categorizing things that can't be controlled versus can be controlled. And you really left the audience with that simple call to action through the illustration of a simple exercise on how to deal with something that everyone has to deal with at some point in time with stress. And using that simple exercise was really, really well done. Thank you, Faith, and back to you, Mr. Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you so much, Brent, for the wonderful evaluation. Next, I would like to invite Brenda Ballinger back to the floor to give her timer report for the evaluators. Go for it.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Dr. Sherri spoke for 3 minutes and 1 second. Juvellys spoke for 1 minute and 50 seconds. Marianna spoke for 1 minute and 58 seconds. The round robin was 3 minutes and 22 seconds. Brahm spoke for 3 minutes and 3 seconds. And Brett spoke for 3 minutes and 18 seconds.
Thank you so much, Brenda. Although I think there was a mistake in terms of reversing the order, but I would like to invite all of you to vote for a favorite evaluator for tonight. And yes, please send the votes to me. All right, thank you so much. Next, I would like to invite our guests if they have any comments for the Speak-a-Thon for tonight. If you have any, so please raise your hand. Yes, Dr. Sherri?
Thank you, Toastmaster Adrian, fellow Toastmasters, guests. This was awesome. I saw this on social media on the Facebook, and I asked if I could practice this is for Sunday, and I was welcomed right away. So I appreciated the opportunity. I thought it was run really well, and thank you. just thank you, I guess.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sherri. Any more? Yes, Peter?
I'm overwhelmed by the enthusiasm of the organization and the putting together of a event that is out of the typical Toastmaster playbook. To have this, to meet the needs of the speakers, how well you put it off. How well you pulled it off. My hat is off to all of you folks for doing that. And again, thank you for allowing me to sneak across the border. Please don't tell the authorities that I invaded Canada.
Thank you so much, Peter. Let's see. And Faith?
because I want to iterate with Dr. Sherri, thank you for having this opportunity. It's good to get in front of a totally new audience. I was presenting this. I've gotten asked to speak. Will be like one of my first outside Toastmasters, an hour-long workshop in December that will be in person, and this is part of that. So thank you for the opportunity to get that opportunity to practice before I speak in front of a audience of maybe up to 100. And we're teaching, it'll be at the Ability Expo in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, thank you so much, Faith. I actually learned something from you tonight, and I'm gonna utilize what you have suggested in my life as well. Thank you so much. So any more comments? Maybe one more? Oh yeah, and thank you, Linda, for your comments. Yes, thank you so much. And I wish you have learned a lot. Okay, so seeing none, I would like to announce the best evaluator and best speaker of tonight. First of all, for the best evaluator for tonight, Brent, you are the best evaluator for tonight. Thank you. And finally, our best speaker goes to Dr. Sherri.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Wonderful speech. Thank you. Next, I would like, although we're at the end of tonight's meeting, I would like to ask either Marianna or Brahm if you have any further comments.
Well, on my part, thank you very much, everyone, to come to our meeting and be patient with our technical issues, which we always manage to collect some. But this time, I would like to ask Brent Patterson, our president, if he would finish our meeting up with his remarks. Brent, please.
Sure thing. Yeah, no, thank you everybody for joining us for this special meeting. You know, there was some opportunity for some individuals to get a few extra speeches out of the way in their path towards their pathways completion as we come towards the end of the term. This has been a great use of Monday evening for that, but also just the fact that we get an opportunity to meet some folks from different districts and different areas, and just an opportunity to get to hear those wonderfully prepared speeches. So I just want to thank everybody who's attended tonight. And of course, please, anybody who is interested in joining us on Saturday mornings for our regular Leadership Speak meeting, it is an advanced club focused specifically on leadership development. And we are striving to be the premier advanced club, specifically with that focus in mind. Really, those individuals who are striving to really develop themselves as leaders and utilize the team that we've put together in Leadership Speak Toastmasters Club to really drive that forward, not just through traditional leadership skills and the utilization of pathways, but also a focus on how we can embrace and utilize technology. You can see Brahm, who is our really the club founder, how well he's able to illustrate and demonstrate the effective use of technology in presentations. And that's something that we continually are challenging ourselves. And I believe all of the membership is learning as a result. So if you wish to attend on a Saturday morning, by all means, that there's always an open invitation to anybody who would like to attend as a guest. And I hopefully will see you there. Thanks, Marianna. Great job organizing. Thank you.
Very much, Brent. And I like to say thank you to Adrienne running our meeting and Brenda to do our timing. Thank you very much for visiting us and help us out. And with that, I will close the meeting. And if you have a few minutes, we can stay behind and we can chat. We are staying around a bit.
Yeah, first of all, let me say thank you so much for the